Yeah. Drop it. Fraternity of Girth Level Up Collection. Still live. Still a lot of stuff in stock. You need to be on top of this, y'all. You got to get onto that Fraternity of Girth Level Up Collection. Live right now. Use code HEAVYLIGHT at fogapparel.com. Grab all that good stuff. Also spent a little bit of time with the pirate captain, the head honcho of Fraternity of Girth today. And dude, there's so much cool stuff coming. I can't give away too much, but it's not just apparel. There's lots of cool items coming from Fraternity of Girth. They're doing the stuff for the people in the strength lifestyle, the stuff that they know that we like. So super stoked about that. Also, don't forget Fraternity of Girth does fulfillment. If you are running a games or you got one that hasn't been canceled or you got one that's getting rescheduled or even you just want one for your backyard, hey, hire me, I guess. But Fraternity of Girth can do the fulfillment for that. So you got to hook that up too. Get after it, y'all. Fraternity of Girth, fogapparel.com. Can't lie. Pretty bummed. So, word just came down a couple days ago that Scottfest, Tulsa, Oklahoma, on September 19th is canceled because of the COVID, because of the pandemic, concerns for public safety, rightful concerns for public safety. Look, let's just be straight up and honest about this. Texas and Oklahoma have not exactly been real models of leadership and how to handle this. Oklahoma has different concerns because the population density in their cities isn't quite the same. But still, this part of the country hasn't been really the model. Texas are pretty egregious that we reopened the state too early, and now we look like a bunch of jackasses, everybody backtracking. And mayors taking it into their own hands, not even waiting for the governor's orders. People are just, city of Round Rock where I live has said, hey, mask mandatory. So there you go. It's being considerate of other people. Imagine that. Weird. So yeah, we're kind of back to square one. And it sucks, man. That was lightweight nationals. If I had made that clear, that was, I kind of, like I said before, I had not really planned on making a run of any kind this year, but when that was kind of salvaged, we thought there was going to be that games. I got geared up, and for the past few weeks, I've been training hard, and not just hard for me, like objectively training hard. Actually working hard, training like an athlete, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm bummed. That, and it's not like that work is in the trash or whatever. It's just that takes away, I don't know. It takes away the mountaintop, that takes away. I've always been this way in that I'm not somebody who, trains without something in mind. I'm much more effective in training and I'm much more motivated, and I tend to do better work when I have a thing I'm working towards. That's why, I've hobby jumped for so many years, and that's why the games have been so important to me, is that it gives me that thing to work towards. It gives me a motivation and a reason to be in the gym, a performance-based reason to be there. I'm not terribly motivated by aesthetics. I know you can't tell by looking at this body, but it's not aesthetics that do that. That's never really done it for me. I don't have any sort of gift for strength. To be exceptional at it or anything, to be exceptionally strong. So powerlifting, those things never really did it for me, but throwing was there for me, kind of like fencing was, and it gave me a purpose. It gave me something to drive for. And it's not like it's just completely gone, but, this year, I think it's safe to say it's gone. Like maybe salvage one, maybe compete here in the late fall, early winter in Austin or something, or around Texas, but I can't even count on that at this point. Because things are such a mess and we don't know where they're going. It's not like there's less cases in Texas now. So it pulled away. It pulled away my finish line. I guess that's another way of putting it. It removed the finish line, and now I'm just running. So I still trained the past couple of days. Obviously, I think I'm going to tilt back more towards lifting. I had been in this weird flux period where I was like 90 days out from training for nationals. So I thought like, hey, let's do some revamping. And I was in the process of revamping like 3 events, like 6 really when you get down to, 4 or 5. I was redoing the way that I threw hammers. I was re-examining the way I was doing weights because I've had the shanks with the weights for a long time. And then stones, I've gone back to the spin. So there's there was a lot of technical work to do. And now, like, I'm a lot less motivated to do that technical work, I guess, because there's not a deadline, maybe next year. But the weight room remains the weight room. And I really, really love the program that I'm doing and that I'm doing along with the other heavy light athletes right now. It's really enjoyable. It's fun to go out there. The movements change up enough, and it's dynamic enough, and there's enough variety, and it's got enough strength stuff to keep my attention. Like, it's good. I really enjoy it. So that's not going to change. But yeah, the throwing portion, certainly tough. And it's certainly tough because of the sense of community that is getting lost. We're kind of tangentially held to each other, because of this silly sport. We come from all different walks of life. And, a lot of times this is the connection we get. And, you can substitute some of it with things like this and, talking about the media and the different, forms of Highland Games media, like, YouTube and Instagram and podcasts that we like and all that kind of, we can connect on that, but it's just different than being in person. And I miss that. I miss it a lot. I had a chance last week before I knew everything was canceled to go throw with some friends. And I haven't done that in quite a while. And, we were smart, and I'm a little bit strict about social distancing, so I'm not too worried about myself. And I had a mask and all that kind of good stuff. But, it was just a few Texas throwers putting together a backyarder. And I was at baseball with my son the first half of the day. He had a tournament, and they lost early on that Sunday. So, I showed up right at the end. They were just finishing up Hammers, which was their last event they were doing. And I just showed up and slapped a kilt on and said, hey, can I do them all real quick? So I threw 5 events in like 15 minutes. I threw a light hammer, and then I threw both stones, both weights. I did not throw heavy hammer because, right? Who wants to go back around and do a hammer after you've already done one? But yeah, obviously I didn't warm up. I didn't have any preparation or anything like that. I wanted to throw and wanted to do that with friends and have something to joke around about, and it was fun. The numbers were whatever. They were what they were. What it did for me, this is kind of an aside, we can talk about a little bit more of the value right now. We'll talk about something of value instead of just me moping, right? But I thought kind of the interesting value that I got out of that is something that I've been a proponent of, is why I think people do need to compete regularly. And I think it's good to have people to throw with, and it's important to sometimes do a backyarder, even when there's no big festival or anything like that. It's important to throw with the lights on. And, and what I mean by that is it's important to throw when it's not just you, in your practice area and just inside your own head, not doing it for anybody. Sometimes you need to throw with attention paid, with the lights on, with at least the stadium lights on. And as I told my heavy light athletes earlier this week, it's not the Super Bowl. It's not even a playoff game. It's not even really a preseason game. It's just the lights are on in the stadium, and maybe a few people are watching. But it's important because it does make things happen that don't happen in practice. You can be very in control in practice and feel like you've got a handle on things in practice, but as soon as the quote unquote lights go on, those things can get really out of control. Case in point, my going back to the spin and the open stone has been really good for me in practice. It's been more consistent than ever. But my spin, when I got in front of friends and I was throwing and I knew that somebody was going to measure it or whatever, and I couldn't make my own mental excuses around the measurement or just not measure it or whatever, it changed, and it was poor. The quality went way down. I think I only threw like 41.1, and that was the best throw by, a significant amount. And it was totally to do with the change of situation. It wasn't like I was a different person. Yeah, I didn't warm up, but whatever. I would expected a better series even, but that was good. And my weights for distance, even though I'd made some strides, still broken. Still definitely broken. Very hard to finish a throw properly. Very in foul trouble constantly. Conversely, the small changes I made in hammer, they're there and they're coming to play. They showed up with the lights on, and that was cool. That was neat to see. I'd like to do some other events. I'd like to see how things with sheaf and weight of a bar are going. Caber's caber, obviously. But I'd like to see and be fun, but I don't think I'm going to have a chance to. So, and even then, like even going and being smart and social distancing with everybody still, like it just feels like a risk. And, I'm more anal retentive than most. And I make sure that people are aware, like, you got to know what my wife does for a living. I'm more of a risk to you than you are to me. She works in an environment where there is more risk in a hospital. And like that comes home and we're super careful. We're beyond what you may even think careful is in our house. And, but still, like, I have to think about all that kind of stuff. So even getting together with throw with people, I have to think about these kind of risks. That's an aside. An aside within an aside. That's what we do here. But it was nice to throw with the lights on and see that there was work to do. But then just a couple of days later, just run into the wall of like, oh, Nationals is off. So all that focus is like, you can do that still. You can do it for fun, but your big reason for doing it and your timeline for getting it done and the hustle that was going with it is gone. It fucking blows, man. It's to the point now where, I'm kind of accepting the fact that it's close to time to shut it down in terms of my personal ability to compete this year. And that it's time to shift, my hobby time to one of my other hobbies or pick up a new one or whatever. I'd love to go back to Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but that's a tough proposition too, safety-wise. Can't really grapple, We can kick bags in the same room, but it's tough. And, really what's going to happen is I'm going to do a lot more fishing. I'm going to fly fish a lot more. It's so mind-blowingly hot right now in Texas. But, and then, once fall comes around, I was planning to shift over to hunting season anyway. So even if everything gets rescheduled and the whole world comes back online for Highland Games, it's really hard for me to get back into that mode because I switch over to hunting mic at that point. That becomes hunting season, Like, for me personally, like, because of being a coach, I stay in Highland Games mindset pretty much year round. And, I'm happy to do that. But for I have to, I create those boundaries for myself. Like where, a lot of the fall, several weeks, a couple months of the fall that's time to hunt. That's time to put meat in the freezer for my family. That's time to really, for me to spend my time that I'm not working and not coaching to focus on that and do that. So even if like November, December, like, oh, we're doing all the games, COVID got eradicated, there's a vaccine, like still, like it's, in a normal year, that wouldn't be what I did. So I'm staring down the idea that I'm going to have to shut it down. The trick for me, and I think the trick for a lot of people, if I'm being honest, is that we have to keep the momentum that we're building in the weight room going. And we have to keep like those little gains and the things that we're making, like the realizations we're having about throwing just from talking and watching video. I bet everybody's watching a lot more throwing video right now, and I'll come back to that in a second because Damian Fisher made an interesting point about that on Instagram that, how do you keep these gains? Like, how do you keep the forward momentum? When there's no chance to show it off. And let's like we always are, let's be honest that a lot of us are doing this because we like to show off. And without that outlet, oh man, like how do you solidify that? I think my kids are murdering each other in the other room, by the way. That's their exercise regimen. But how do you, without that outlet, man, it's so hard because that really does light a fire. You'd be hard pressed to try to tell me that there's people that idea of showing off and competing and at least getting to hang out with your buddies and maybe besting one of them or something like that, or bragging about stuff or shit talking people doesn't light a fire with you. And when you don't have it, for the people like us that have been drawn to this sport, it's tough. It's really hard to find another way to keep rolling forward. Like, well, I'll keep doing fucking box jumps. So I'll keep doing medicine ball throws, and then I'll keep that as part of my weight room routine instead of just doing. Wow, hold on, let's see. Yeah, they're walking upstairs with the fight now. That's good. They're taking the fight upstairs. Take it out of the dining room area. No one wants to hear screaming while you eat. Come on, kids. So yeah, like. I don't even know where I was right there. Something about keeping the gains going forward. How do you do that? You know what? I'll go back to the Damian Fisher thing. He made a great point that a lot of what we see, he was talking about that he likes to go back and look at YouTube videos like the ones that Matt did and old school Ryan Stewart stuff and, things on YouTube, longer form stuff that are more about like full practices. And I have a bunch out there too. I'm sure Fish does not watch my stuff because, why would you? But, doesn't watch my old practices or anything like that. But, like I've got him out there too. And he was saying he misses that kind of content, seeing like people work through full throws and work through a practice. What's their process for working through a whole thing? And, that's what Heavy Light is, right? It's a structured practice. That's what the programming is. And that's what, the people that read my program are getting every week. But, there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, right? This cat that we throw, I guess. There's a lot of different ways to put tacky on a hammer. There's a lot of different ways to screw a handle on a weight. There's a lot of different ways to chalk up your neck. I don't know. I'm trying to find something clever. There's nothing clever happening here. Lots of different ways to stab a sheath bag. There's really not. There's only like 2 acceptable ways. Don't stab it right in the middle because that's weird. I saw Dickens do that once, by the way. Super weird. Don't do that. But, in terms of how you structure your practice, there's a lot of ways to let people work through this and what their progressions are and how they solve problems in it. And he's right. That's fun to see. And what we get lost with sometimes in like the minute or less Instagram videos or now even shorter TikTok videos and stuff, is that we miss that context. We see the big throws or we see the big screw ups or whatever, or the Highland Games fails. Shout out to Highland Games fails. Great Instagram account. Follow that one. We only see the tidbits. It's the same social media kind of disease we have with other content. Like the long form is dying. And, it's funny that YouTube is the long form, but in a lot of ways it is. And, I'm with Fish on that. I think it's cool to have more long form stuff. So, that kind of maybe motivates me to think like, instead of my fire being that I'm going to compete, because odds are right now I'm not, unless some cool magic stuff happens or some cool science happens. Most likely it's going to be science, not magic, right? Most likely I'm not going to compete again, but I can create more content. Obviously, I'm going to keep doing this podcast. Sorry. I'm going to keep doing this and I'm going to make more video. I'm going to try to create, Instagram content. God help me, I may step into making TikTok content, although that's not really instructive stuff. But, maybe get back in, making more regular YouTube things, add to the drill library. That motivates me. That certainly does. So, the reading Damien saying that definitely was a motivator because I know there are a lot of throwers out there that do benefit from that. If you're like me, you learned a lot of this shit from watching YouTube. You learned a lot from watching Matt. You learn from watching Dan's stuff. You learn from watching Ryan and the Spencer's throws. Like you've seen a lot of people, live through this and you've lived vicariously through them. What you've also seen a lot of is a lot of those people wearing Sport Kilt. Because Sport Kilt is the best, by far, kilt in the Highland Games. If you are a part of the Highland Games, part of this sport, part of anything to do with the Highland Games, you need to be decked out in Sport Kilt. Go to sportkilt.com, get the best kilt in the business, get your kilt hose, or get the athletic socks, which I rock constantly. I wear them to bed, y'all. The wife has got serious problems with it. But hey, I'm going to wear my green and gold. I'm sorry, babe. When we wear the green and gold, they're going to be above the knee. I'm taking those to bed with me. Light a candle. But Sport Kilt's got it all, man. They got that sweet multicam hat that I like to rock. They got other hats too. They got everything you need to get decked out, get looking good, and have the best stuff on you while you're competing at the Highland Games. Go to sportkilt.com, use code HEAVYLIGHT. That's going to save you 10%. So maybe there will be more YouTube in my future, more YouTubing. It's fun. It's certainly not as it's not as free form as I guess like podcasting is. It doesn't give you that same kind of man, I'm just gonna speak my mind and be extemporaneous and fucking +1 for that one, Mike. Extemporaneous and just kind of follow thoughts or get a thought out that's in my head. Like there's a long editing process and everything that goes into it, and you got to work with tiles and you got to work with titles and fonts and intros and all. I keep it pretty simple on my channel. I get to the meat of it, but there's still it's a little bit more labor intensive, but I know that has a lot of value, and I got to put my money where my mouth is. I talk a lot about wanting to bring value, and I want to bring positivity, and I want to bring, and like I've said in other, I guess long ago, maybe on this podcast, is like not just like be positive in the terms of like be happy, but like positive in terms of adding something. I want to add something to our universe of our sport. So, if doing more YouTube is the way, then maybe that's the way that I do it. But creating more content, definitely all on board with that. Would love to collab with a lot of people. It's just hard, and there's no way to travel. There's no way to get to them right now. So if you want to collab with me for video content, send me a message, and we'll hang out in my front yard. And we'll shoot it together. But I got to have you come to me because obviously for safety reasons, and obviously I'm lazy. And I'll probably be building a deck. And also heads up, the pirate captain, Hayden Ballio, is also building a deck. So more woodworking happening in the world of dads. The world of Central Texas dads. So I went over today. We kind of had a little powwow about it, talked it through, and kind of, bounced ideas off and see how he's going to do it. He's going to stake it out and tie it off today. So you got your woodworking update. So my deck is done. I do have one little strip of wood. I got to rip one board to fill in a space. So sorry, I lied to you guys a little bit. But we did get the hot tub. It's on the deck. Just waiting for the electrician to hook it up. I kind of want to do it myself, by the way. I really want to do the electrical work myself and then just get an inspection afterwards, but my wife said, no, I don't want you to electrocute yourself. She cares about my safety and stuff. It's so lame, right? So, yeah. Sorry I hadn't given I usually start with the woodworking updates. I don't think I have any other serious woodworking projects going right now. I apologize, guys. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my fire pit area. So, send me your best fire pit ideas. Let's get those out there. But back to the, collabing with people. I do love collaborating with people. And I think, John Oden and I have talked about it a little bit about trying to get some content together because he and I have some, a lot of similar philosophical ideas. But he's different enough for me to where I think he could offer something cool and we could together. It would have been fun to get together with a lot of the other lightweights and shoot some content and do some stuff with them at Nationals. But that's not going to happen. There's lots of rad people out there. And I haven't seen Spencer in forever. I know he's been busy as hell. And honestly, I've been kind of locked in a bubble too when baseball came back around. But yeah, we need to get more stuff out there. We need to, and also in terms of content, I watched the home game thing. I watched the Netflix thing. I watched home game, and it was good. It was really good. That's the kind of stuff that I like. As soon as I was watching, I was like, man, I wish I'd have made something like this. Even if it's just for like our games, but it was perfect because it was the Braemar Gathering. It was in Scotland and had Scottish athletes mostly. But Kyle did a great job. I messaged him after I watched. I told him, great job, man. Dawkins did a good job. He's a funny dude. And like they just put on well for our sport, man. They represented us well. They represented the sport really well. And Randall's is a fucking monster and he's going to be around for a long time making big throws. His hammers are just absurd and his other throws are fantastic. He's going to be one of the best for a long time. And it was just cool to see him get his shine. And, even though Vlad didn't get his shine because he won the year that they were filming that, but they didn't mention that. I didn't mention him. He was on camera at least, so you got to see him out there. Ali Gunn made an appearance out there. Who else was the Winter Brothers got a little bit of shine, so that's cool. It's cool to see the athletes that we talk about and that we know out there. It would have been fun to see a broader scope, but that wasn't what that was about. It was, this is a slice of life of a sport is what they're doing. They're not trying to give you like the whole sport. And I think everybody pretty much understood that. That's fine. We all got that. We knew that we weren't getting like, this is all of the Highland Games everywhere. Like, no, this is a slice of it that's the best representation. And then like the Braemar Gathering is a great representation of it. But I love the presentation style. I love the graphics. I love I love the cards they put in, the illustrations and everything. They explain the sport very well. And what it gives us is a resource to where if somebody says, Highland Games, what is that? You can point to it and say, look, watch this episode. This is a great description of what we do, a great top-level description of what we do without getting them bogged down in the shit that we think about all the time. That's the kind of stuff I think needs to be made more of. I would love to circle back around and do another like getting started in the games video that went that way a little bit more. If you beat me to that and you make it, fucking kudos to you. You should do it. But let's make it high quality, Like we've got a lot of people like me jabbering at the camera in vlogs and stuff, but we don't have like really well packaged video because it's explaining in time, right? But I liked it a lot. And I think it can be a great teaching tool for us. We watched a couple other episodes of it too. It's a good series. It's cool. I fucking love fringe sports, obviously. That's my jam. I am fringe sports, just like the rest of y'all. So it's cool to see that stuff. And, maybe it'll be, maybe since this season's over, maybe this is the beginning of my free diving career. Heavy Light is brought to you by Throw Bros. Throw Bros is the only online store for Highland Games athletes. Gear up, get throwing. Use code HEAVYLIGHT, all one word. You're going to save 10% at throwbros.com.